What a weird day. Eddie Howe out the football club already, and we've got a new manager. Do you know what? We can't stand still, so life will move on without Eddie Howe. So we need to look forward. And today we're going to look at Matthias Jaissle. We'll look at everything about him, and I appreciate not everybody likes this sort of video, but I think it's important to know what type of manager you're getting, who he is, what his character is like. Does he have charisma? Does he have all that sort of thing that people like with managers these days? What is his style of play? So I'm going to try my best to tell you everything you need to know about Matthias Jaissle. So make sure you grab a cup of coffee, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, do what you do to support this channel because it's greatly appreciated. But Eddie Howe's left, new managers coming in. I do think some of these signings are probably being made with Jaissle in mind. Before we go really deep into the video, I just want to talk about a couple of things that I really do like about him. He's really charismatic. He's good with the media. He's a good talker. He's a good thinker. More importantly, what I love about him, he plays to his players' strengths. He always looks to bring out the strengths of his players, always looking to force out the opposition's weaknesses, which is exactly what you got to do on any team that you come up against. And secondly, coming out the RB Salzburg academy and coming through that system, he knows how to develop young players. So if we're going down this young player model, he's probably one of the ideal candidates because that is exactly what the RB Salzburg, RB Leipzig, the Linkfering model is all built on. Developing, signing, improving, making boys to men in terms of players. So he knows how to develop and get the best out of those players and really make them into something. Now, it looks like it's more advanced than what we're led on to be believed. And it's just been said on Twitter that within the next 24 to 48 hours, he will be announced as our next manager. So who is he? Matthias Jaissle transitioned into coaching after 26 after an injury cut his playing career short, which is exactly why he was compared to Julian Nagelsmann because his career got cut short, went into coaching, and the same thing with Jaissle. After playing for Hoffenheim, Jaissle was discovered by Ralf Rangnick at Hoffenheim. Jaissle developed his managerial skills within the Red Bull system. He began by Salzburg's second-tier reserve team, Linkfering. Within 6 months at Linkfering, he was promoted to Salzburg's first-team manager at 33, where he secured consecutive Austrian Bundesliga titles in the 21-22 season, led Strasbourg to a knockout stages of the Champions League for the first time in their history, and he moved to Saudi Pro League in 2023. So this is his record with both clubs. RB Salzburg, 2 titles, 1 cup, 92 games, 64 wins, 18 draws, 10 defeats, 2.28 points per game, 2 Champions Leagues and a Saudi Cup, 138 games, 92 wins, 21 draws, 25 defeats, 2.15 points per game. And this is his collective record, which is actually pretty decent. 188 wins, 43 draws, 39 defeats, 70% win rate, and 2.25 points per game, and it is Newcastle United next. This is win rate at every single club he has managed. Now, do you know what I always say? What do I always tell you guys? If any of you guys have watched my videos since probably the midway of last season, I always used to say it's not about formation, is it? It's not about formation. It's all about the principles and behaviors that you set your players. Now, if you don't want to hear it from me, listen to it from Jaissle, because Jaissle came out with this quote, and thank you, Matthias Jaissle, because I always say this. For me, the tactical formation plays a subordinate role. It is crucial that we get our principles on the pitch, and that doesn't depend on whether we play a 4-2-2-2, a 4-3-2-1, a 4-3-1-2, or a 3-5-2. The principles are always the same. And a couple of more quotes about him that does dive a little bit into his style of play. In Austria, we face teams who play with a low block, which is good news, but adaptation was always really important. In the league, we could play our way using the identity we had in the academy through Linkfering into the first team, but sometimes in the Champions League, I would try and do the same thing. You can't always do that. You have to be smarter. There are times in games where you have to play deep, which is not natural to us, but when you have to change the depth of your back four or alter the space between the defenders. That helped me prepare for the upcoming year. I had a squad that was completely different in profile, and I had to think much more game to game about formation, how and when to press, and that forced me to become much more flexible to develop as a coach. That is what I like to hear, because for me, he's a lot more flexible than what Eddie Howe was. Eddie Howe was a lot more rigid in the way that he set up the team, whereas Matthias Jaissle is a lot more flexible. We've seen him play multiple different formations depending on the profile of his players. That is some deep thinking in game management. So he's not afraid to change his shape depending on the profile of his players and who he's playing against. As you can see, he's played and set up in multiple different formations, but the principles of what he sets his team always remains the same. And those tactical principles are At RB Salzburg, it was slightly different in terms of formation to what it was when he went to the Saudi Pro League. When he first made his name at Salzburg, it was compact, high-energy 4-3-1-2 system or a 4-4-2 diamond shape, built for vertical pressure and rapid central combinations. But when he went to Saudi, that completely changed, and he changed his formation. But again, the principles still remained the same. There was still the same blueprint, because at Saudi, he played a 4-2-3-1, but in possession, he reverted to a back three, a 3-2-5, and a 2-3-5. So the blueprints always remain the same, and that is aggressive pressing, always a second wave, which I'll get onto very shortly, swarm, pressing, high intensity, vertical and explosive transitions, aggressive fullbacks, energetic midfielders, positional interchanges, which is what I absolutely love, and the rest defense that he uses as a weapon. And I just want to start off by looking at this graphic, because this graphic is him at RB Salzburg. Now, he's playing against Sturm Graz, probably the second best team in the Australian League. What he's doing here is playing out from the back. So as you can see, one of his centre-backs is in possession, but you can see the setup he's done. He's closed perimeter, so everybody's short, so it's short combinations. And the reason he does that is because if the opposition do overturn the ball, then they've got players ready to swarm and win the ball back. So what he's trying to do here is play out from the back, but the principle that I love that he uses here is always finding the spare man. Can you see where the spare man is? So he's inviting pressure to create that spare man. So as you can see, right in the middle of the image, there's an arrow pointing at the central midfielder who was getting pressed aggressively. If you look behind him, there's a spare man. So the principle is to always find the spare man, and this is how you set up patterns of play, because all these players now should have an idea already of who's going to be the spare man. Now, what happens in this sequence is the deepest midfielder jumps out of his position, which allows him to find the spare man. He turns on the ball and drives into the space. But as you can see, there's already runners off the ball. So it's all about that second movement. And I've mentioned it in my videos before. It's all about supporting the next action. Your first action isn't the important one. It's the second action that's the important one. Because the movement off the ball often dictates a pass, and that's exactly what happens here, because as you can see, the fullback is really aggressive as well. He manages to find the fullback in space, and they manage to get into this position after 2 passes. His attacking principles are as follows. He always switches from that compact base, so whether that be a 4-3-1-2 or a 4-2-3-1, he always changes to an aggressive 3-2-5 or a 2-3-5, depending where they are on the pitch. Deep in their own half, it'll be a 3-2-5. If they're higher up the pitch, it'll be a 2-3-5. Now, it's all designed to stretch the pitch and create dominance in territory, but also force the opposition backwards. To achieve this, what happens is the 2 centre-backs will split. A central midfielder, the deepest one, will go inside the centre-backs to form that back three. At the same time, the full-backs will surge and push up high and wide. That will create natural overloads on the wide areas. But because you are aggressive with both full-backs, it stretches the opposition. So if they're trying to be compact, it creates space in the central areas for your midfielders to get on the ball and rotate between each other. Now, the beauty about Jaissle, he doesn't want to keep possession for the sake of keeping possession. Every time he has possession, it's all with a purpose, and that purpose is to get from B to A as quick as possible. He doesn't want to just recycle possession, so you'll not see him playing like a Spain where it's just side to side consistently, just bearing your opposition down. He's always trying to penetrate forwards, always progressing forwards. That's why I feel like the players like Bamba and Sean Sturr would thrive under this manager system, because 1, they're technically gifted, and 2, they're always forward thinking. So as soon as they win back the ball, the plan is to move the ball forward as quickly and as early as possible. So his whole system is built on fast, direct movement rather than slow, safe possession. So as you can see from the build-up stage here, every player knows his role and responsibilities. The wide centre-back's got the option. He can drive into the space, which naturally draws opposition towards him, which frees up space in advanced areas. Or he can recycle possession and change the pivot to the other side of the attack. But as you can see, they're clearly starting that structure of that 3 at the back with the 2 wing-backs pushing up high. And even if we move the clip on a bit, this is from the same game but a different angle. Now, the 2 wide of the back 3 are the 2 centre-backs. The one in the central is actually a midfielder. So the centre midfielder will drop into the back line, which allows your fullbacks to go wide, because if you get the ball overturned, you've already got that structure behind the rest defense. So if you are getting transitioned on, you've got players in good positions that they can prevent the transition from happening. But it also allows you to attack with purpose, and that's by creating overloads in every single area of the pitch. Because by doing this, you naturally have the spare man. Because I'll give you an example. Your 3 centre-backs you've got a spare man against their 2 forwards. So they naturally have to bring a midfielder into the forward line, which creates a spare man behind their first press. And that is how you play out from the back. And when he attacks, he always likes to have players on the last line. Now, this is a clearer image of exactly what I've been talking about. A centre midfielder will drop in between the centre backs, and you can clearly see the full backs pushing up high and wide. And as you can clearly see, they form like a triangle in the central areas. That just creates a little bit of confusion, but it also allows you to rotate very seamlessly. So he loves having attackers on the last line, which again, I'm going to be honest, we didn't do enough of last season. We always had players behind the ball, so when we did win the ball back, we struggled to penetrate or create opportunities. But if you're brave in your positioning, it allows you to penetrate forward quicker than the opposition can get into their rest defence. So this is kind of like an ideal setup for them, because even if they lose the ball in this situation, they've got that rest defence shape already where they can prevent the transition happening. But if they did manage to beat the first line of press, they've got players in advanced areas where they can create opportunities and create a little bit of chaos in that final third. But even if I just move it on slightly, as you can see, one of the attackers drops deep, which allows the midfielder to create that third man run. So again, it's all about understanding attacking patterns, understanding your players' movements, and understanding what to do in specific moments. But even if we're moving on to a different clip within the same game, players on the last line moving off the ball, that just gives the player in possession multiple options. And when I was talking about rotations on the last line, this is the second half of the same game. As you can see, the centre forward is dropping deep into the midfielder position. The midfielder is running beyond the centre back. That is how you break down a structured defence, because movement kills in football. And in this image, you can clearly see the structure that he's formed. He's got his 2 fullbacks wide, he's got his diamond shape in the middle, and he's got his 2 forwards attacking the last line. Now, what I also love is how he got the best out of Adeyemi in the first 2 years and then Benjamin Sesko in the second year. But I'll show you exactly how he done it, because Adeyemi is normally like a wide forward, but he wasn't prolific in his first season, because in his first season he scored 7 goals with an XG of 5.8 and he had 30 shots. For me, that's not prolific enough. That tells me he's not been getting in a good enough positions to get high quality shots off. So that was during the 2020-21 season. And if we're moving on to the 21-22 season, as you can see, he scored 19 goals in the next year, 15.15. So he overperformed his XG. He over doubled his shots as well. That's because he was getting into better positions. And as you can see, he scored 4 more goals from the central areas. Even just off those images there, you can see the work going on in the training ground. But I love the speed in which he moves the ball with. It's all about crisp, sharp passing, 1 or 2 touches, moving the ball quickly through the thirds. And I think that complements the players we've got in our squad, because we're not a slow build-up type of team, in my opinion. We're better when we move the ball a little bit quicker, but also having those patterns and rotations where we can beat the last line. But if we're moving on to his defensive work, and this is how he likes to set up in his defensive style. So he's a defensive style that relies on suffocating, aggressive high pressing, intense, immediate counter pressing, and front-footed behaviours. As soon as they lose the ball, he wants his team to win it back straight away. The strikers lead the press, so the 2 forwards will be the first to react, closing down the opposition centre-backs. There's a tight, narrow build-up, so he likes the midfield to be very compact and stay close together, forming a compact diamond shape. So if one goes, they all go. So it's all about that central overload. They want to create that 4 against 3. So if they do overturn the ball, then we've got the spare man. But 2 of my favourite things, it's all about pressing triggers. And what I mean by pressing triggers, a trigger is when there's a negative pass, so the opposition either plays sideways or backwards. That's when everyone squeezes the pitch. Or there's a loss of, like a miscontrol or a loose touch, let's say, and then everybody presses aggressively. What I like about it, the press he sets up, it's not about winning the ball back within the first press. It's all about that second press. So the first press is all about forcing the mistake. It's the guy that follows him. It's all about winning the ball back and intercepting the ball. So you'll often see somebody press, shadow pressing, just to form an angle and force the opposition into an area that he doesn't want to go in. So you'll often see, the way I watched it, you'll often see him curving his run so it forces the opposition into a wide area or into trouble. And then it's that second aggressive press. So it's that second wave of press that always tends to overturn the ball. Once you do that, you've got players around you that you can combine with and start creating opportunities. So that's the kind of design that he tries to do in his press. And the reason he does that is because even if a press breaks down, he's already got that second wave of press that yeah, you might beat the first press, but you're not beating the second press. So it's all about understanding, staying close together and pressing as a unit, not as individuals. And you can clearly see that formed in this shape here. As you can see, the two centre forwards in a too aggressive system. I'm not saying we're going to play with the centre forward, but what you'll tend to do, if he sets up in a 4-2-3-1, you'll kind of tuck his wingers in, have his attack midfielder to set up and go along his striker when they're out of possession. So it sets that back to two. Usually, if we ever done it where the hour was Anthony Gordon going alongside Alexander Isak. Last season, we didn't do it as much because we set up in that 4-5-1. But prior to that, we did often press on a 4-4-2, and it was Anthony Gordon and Alexander Isak that would trigger the press. He does something kind of similar. And as you can see there, it's all about the high aggressive pressing. So he doesn't allow the opposition to set up any attacks, but he wants to be aggressive and win the ball back high up the pitch. What I do like about him in all instincts, he allows these players a degree of freedom. There's no rigid in the way he attacks or the way he defends. He allows them to find that solution on the pitch, and he trusts them to do it. Sometimes players just need to feel loved and feel like they've got that responsibility where they're able to find solutions. And that's what I feel like he gives. So when he wins the ball, it's not about you need to be here, you need to be there, you need to take the touch with your left foot to set up this. It's all about, can you find a solution? I'll platform you to get into the position. Once you're in that position, it's down to you to find the solution, which I love. But just getting back to his defensive shape, he's actually conceded the least amount of goals in the Saudi Pro League last season, and he also kept the most clean sheets. So it's not all about the attacking principles, it's the defensive principles as well, but he always sets up to attack to defend. What I mean by that is there's always a structure behind the attack that if the attack does break down, they can counter press quickly. So it's all about always having that control in the game. There's a way in control games off the ball. He does that just in case he loses the ball, but there's a way in control games with the ball as well, and he does that by penetrating through the thirds. Last season under Eddie Howe, we sent the most crosses from open play in the penalty area. This new manager, it's more of that central creation. A lot of it comes through those central areas. So he wants to trust these midfielders in possession, that number 6, the number 8, the number 10. And the reason he does that is because he would rather his wingers attack the space. So guys, that was a mouthful. I do apologize. That was a lot of info, wasn't it? I do apologize. But yeah, if you've enjoyed it, let us know in the comments below. I might do a little bit more tactical analysis once I see what players we're going to be. Like, I want to know if we're going to lose Bruno, keep Bruno, because that changes the whole structure, in my opinion. So it's I want to wait and see who's going to come in, who's going to leave, and then we'll look at the tactical board on that. But that's just sort of what he likes to do and how he likes to set up his team. So if you've enjoyed this video, make sure you hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. I appreciate you all watching. Yeah, and just enjoy the rest of your night.